16 personality types making a decision. Different personality types react completely differently to making decisions and getting new information. Some people are quick, some people are slow, some people get overwhelmed, some people get energized. In today's video, I want to explain to you why and how you can use this information to connect better with other people, probably avoid quite a few arguments and fights, and appreciate yourself a whole lot more. All that and more in today's video, so if you're ready, buckle up, let's get right into it. In life, if we were to boil things down to the basics, the two things we do all day long are take in, gather information, just sort of absorb what's going on, and then we decide what we want to do with that information, what we're noticing, what we're taking in, how do we want to sort that out, how do we want to qualify things, what do we want to value, what do we want to prioritize. All day long, without thinking, we're gathering in information and then sorting it out over and over and over again. But here's where the interesting pattern pops up. Turns out different personality types actually prefer one side of that process more than the other. Some personality types like to gather first and sort later, and then there's other personality types that like to sort first and gather later. Let's dig a little deeper. For some personality types, the gathering part of the process, having your antenna up, just sort of taking in everything that's going on, that process is automatic. It's an instinct. Your brain just sort of jumps there all the time. The EP and IJ personality types lean towards gathering first, gathering quickly, gathering very openly, and then every once in a while they will decide on things. They will sort things out. But the thing that's most automatic for them, most comfortable for them, most exciting for them is something that has to do with gathering in information. This is because for the EP and IJ personality types, their number one personality superpower, the most trusted building block of their personality, is a way of seeing the world, absorbing what's going on. It's either extroverted intuition, introverted intuition, extroverted sensing, or introverted sensing that these personality types love doing all the time at full volume, at full blast. You know, depending on which four of those things you have at full blast, you're gonna be gathering, noticing, getting energized by different things. It could be details, it could be patterns, it could be possibilities, connections, maybe the experiences going on around you. But regardless, this big picture pattern is very real. The EP and IJ personality types like having their antenna up. They like to gather, and then when they're ready, when they're comfortable, they will sort things out. They will decide on things. Fun little fact, this pattern, this preference actually pops up in brain scans. There's a part of the prefrontal cortex that is open to novelty, i.e. gathering in new information. They scan the different personality types, all 16, and guess which personality type showed a preference for that side of the prefrontal cortex? It was exactly the EP and IJ personality types, which is really, really interesting. Anyways, on the other side of the coin are the people who like to sort first and then gather only every once in a while. The IP and EJ personality types like to sort, like to decide on things, like to qualify things very automatically. When they get new information, notice new things, they're eager to filter the information. What am I going to value? What am I going to prioritize? How can I make a decision? What is my stance on this? The IP and EJ personality types are just sort of naturally living there, thinking like that all the time. And this is because for the IP and EJ personality types, their number one personality superpower that they have on full volume, at full blast all the time is a decision-making style. It's either extroverted thinking, introverted thinking, extroverted feeling, or introverted feeling. And you know, depending on which decision-making style you have as your favorite, you're going to sort things out differently. You're going to qualify things, value things, prioritize things differently. What's best for the group? What's gonna get the job done? What makes sense to me? What feels right to me? You know, different personality types qualify things differently, but big picture, this preference for sorting, qualifying things, it is very real. Just like before, they did the brain scans and the part of the prefrontal cortex that likes to sort things, that likes to filter things, that likes to explain things, that likes to decide on things, it is extremely active and preferred exactly for the IP and EJ personality types. So as a quick recap, before we get into some practical applications, there's certain personality types that like to gather first and then sort later. The EP and IJ personality types like to gather, and then every once in a while when they're ready, when they're comfortable, they will sort things out. And then on the other hand, there's other personality types that like to sort first and gather later. For the IP and EJ personality types, when they get new information, they like to sort, and then when they're ready, when they're comfortable, when they're interested, they will gather new information, but their preference is always towards sorting, towards qualifying things. So in real life, how does this play out? How does this affect you? Well, it sort of depends on your personality type or who you're interacting with. Each group, the EPs, IJs, IPs, EJs, uses this gather sort preference in a different way. I really admire how EPs can keep things open for a long amount of time without really worrying about it. When you're taking things in, you guys can gather just for the sake of gathering, not really feeling pressure to decide if it's a priority, if it should be a priority. If new information comes in that changes things, that sort of throws things off, usually you guys get excited by that. EPs are very flexible, very spontaneous, and you guys can play, explore for a lot longer than other people, which is amazing and usually a lot of fun. But in certain contexts, for certain people, it can also be tiring or seem indecisive. Maybe it's too open, too flexible for some people. It's super interesting because the IJ personality types actually use all of that gathering not to be super open and flexible. They actually like taking extra time to gather more information, to be more prepared, to have things a little bit more under control, to make things a little bit more consistent. Because of this, when IJs take the time to think things over, get a little more experience, what they do end up doing or saying, it's usually like super well thought out. They are very prepared. They are very reliable. They can be very like insightful or predict things that other people wouldn't have seen coming. Most of the time, this is amazing. But in certain contexts for certain people, because they're usually making a lot of observations silently, slowly, without sort of talking them out, explaining things, sometimes they can come off a little mysterious or confusing, maybe a little slow or not very flexible. It totally depends. I remember in my last relationship, I'm an IP, she was an IJ, and the relationship was getting a little confusing. It was getting pretty complicated. And both of us had a very different approach, very different pacing in regards to tackling the elephant in the room. How are we gonna figure this out? On my end, it was pretty easy for me to know my personal take on things, my personal stance on things. Things in here are pretty sorted out automatically. So it's really easy for me to explain and share where I'm at. I'm actually the type of person who likes to put everything on the table very quickly so that I can see all the pieces and sort. So I really wanted her to speak her mind and sort of quickly so I could figure out what was going on. For her though, she was incredibly resistant, incredibly hesitant to share anything at all about where she was at. She wasn't trying to be difficult. In fact, she was probably trying not to be difficult by waiting to share anything until things were clear, sorted out in her head. For her, that sorting process didn't happen automatically. She was still sort of taking in what was going on. She was still sort of seeing where things were going. She wasn't ready to make a decision. She wasn't ready to qualify things. So when I kept pushing her to speak her mind, just sort of spit out where she was at, anything, that would be super tiring, super overwhelming for her because she wasn't even sure yet what she thought about things. She'd say things like, I'm gonna wait a couple days, maybe in a couple weeks, things will get clearer. And I was like, what? Why are you being so mysterious? Why is this taking so long? If you share where you're at, I'm pretty sure I can sort it out. It's not gonna be that complicated. The strength of this sort preference that IPs like myself have is that we can usually figure out our personal stance on things extremely quickly. We love splitting things apart to find more clarity, find more accuracy. Super complicated things, especially at an individual level, at a one-on-one level, we get very excited by those things. IPs usually become known for the clarity, for the accuracy they can find at a personal level, especially to find a personalized fit. IPs can usually dig into those things, split hairs for a lot longer than other people, which in a lot of contexts is amazing. But in certain contexts for certain people, this same strength can sometimes come off as a little intense. The way that IPs like to split hairs can sometimes make people feel uncomfortable, or how obsessed they are with a personalized fit can sometimes seem a little overly individualistic. It all sort of depends. Finally, we've got the other sort personality type group, the EJs. The EJs are incredible for how well they can sort out and manage big picture things. Big groups of people, tasks, needs, responsibilities, goals. Those are the things EJs like to sort out, collaborate with, manage. and they can make those types of decisions, sort those things out, usually for a lot longer than other people. It's amazing what EJs can get done, how they lead, what they can balance, but at the same time, in certain contexts, that same strength can also come off as too much, maybe too bossy, maybe too pushy. It all sort of depends. As you can see, this preference, do you sort first and gather later, or do you gather first and sort later? It's such a simple preference that comes from something at a brain wiring level, but it affects us in very real ways every single day. My hope is that no matter what level of personality type enthusiast you are, you can use this simple pattern to appreciate and express your individuality a little bit more, and also empathize and connect with other people that are different than you. If you like today's video, want to learn more about your personality superpowers, want some more in-depth content on some of those personality superpowers we mentioned today, extroverted intuition, introverted feeling, what? You should subscribe to this channel. And if you're interested, check out my main channel, Eric Wen, where I do personality analysis breakdown videos of other awesome creators and characters. I really want to help you embrace, express your individuality. Thank you guys so much for watching. You are the change maker of your own life. Let's think more deeply. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, peace. Bye.